Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where we share our hopes, our feelings, our dreams. Conversely, some say we just talk about an anime we watched every 2 weeks, like we're a book club, but opinions don't really matter around here.
They're like belly buttons.
Yeah.
Everyone's going.
Yeah, I know that everyone knows the same. You didn't
Not
have to
everyone.
Everyone knows the same. So foregone conclusion.
That's not the saying I know.
Why do you think everyone has a belly button?
No, opinions aren't like belly buttons. They're like a different part of anatomy that nobody wants to see. That's the one I always heard.
But everyone wants to use it? Is that how that one goes?
Well, maybe if they're constipated. But...
All right.
Okay.
We
Some
watched
good editing for Troy.
We watched an anime.
Hey, it fits the anime.
That requires a little bit of describing before we get into it. So one thing, we did give a mature warning before we announced it,
Thank
but
God.
we want to double down on that right now. It was picked for its ecchi humor. You know, we enjoy Konosuba. That has fallen into our realm before. It was more than we anticipated, far more, and put us all in very uncomfortable positions when we watched it. Please know that going into this. The anime is called Tsugu Tsugumomo. Also, Tsugu Tsugumomo is the second season of Tsugumomo, which we didn't watch, and we've never done that before, and we will never do it again. Just out of because it grinds my gears. I can't even watch Empire Strikes Back without watching New Hope first. I can't start in the middle. So anyway, to talk about this anime as best as we can, and let me introduce my co-host. First off, we have the rum to my Coke, Jeremy.
I see.
I'm going with a drinking theme because this anime is driven me to drink.
Yep. I'm doing pretty good. School's starting, so just been getting ready and.
So you're going to be doing school, work, anime podcast, 3D printing, and goats. And
I got Tanya to agree to start working on the art for a game, so I'm programming a game. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's gonna happen.
Nice.
We also have the screw to my driver, Jason.
Nice.
You can be the orange juice.
I don't drink much, so that's perfect. Not nearly as much as Troy. Anyways, actually, for once in my life, no, not. But anyways, I watched a movie. I watched 6 movies. I watched the extended versions of all 3 Hobbits and all 3 Lord of the Rings, and it took me over a week.
Oh man!
Just back to back. And
what did you think of the Hobbit trilogy? Just out of curiosity.
You know, I really liked it. Everyone dogs on the third one. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Sure, it's not a 1-for-1 with the books, but neither was Lord of the Rings. So I mean, I will have to say Peter Jackson knows how to show an epic. Like, there's so many tells. You know, obviously he had the fortune of making Lord of the Rings first, but my kids have never seen any of them. So starting with The Hobbit, we got to see all the cool little plantings of seeds for the ring itself going through, and watching Bilbo go through his adventure and then passing that on to Frodo. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And it was, like I said, extended edition. Some of the movies were 4 hours. And it was a blast.
That's cool.
It's like a once a year tradition for my family is to put those on, and it takes a week or two. Just
2 movies I had to do it in 2 parts.
Yeah,
it was the second Hobbit and then Return of the King. We had to split them up.
They literally pause in the middle of the movie, like, okay, you're halfway through the movie.
Intermission.
It's been a week of tragedy for me.
You had to watch this anime.
that my Call of Duty account disappeared on me, and I lost all progress that I have made, not only in this game, but really like over the past 10 years. All my stats and stuff are just gone. I have a ticket out to Activision to get it fixed, but I just haven't wanted to play it. I don't want to start all over again, so I haven't been. So I play basketball video games now. That's my
That
life.
is tragic.
Yeah.
After you just got done leveling literally every item in the game.
Yep, I had earned every gun, and Max leveled it, and
The shield, the knife.
Yep. It was just gone. And it was like, hey, you need to sign in. And it was like, oh, we'll make you a new account. I'm like, that is not right. Anyway, so I haven't.
Did anything else disappear, or was it just that account? Like any other saves?
No, because my Blizzard account is fine. I went and checked on that. That was all good. Blizzard, Activision are kind of related, but yeah, that's all gone. So I've been playing NBA 2K20, the My Career mode, and I scan my face into it, and then so I get to watch myself be this punk college basketball player. Even though my eyes are super swollen for some reason, more so than in real life. And then, like, today I got yelled at by my agent for wearing the wrong type of shoes on the court. I'm like, I didn't know. I've been skipping the story. I just wanted to play the darn game. So apparently I need to role play it better. Anyway,
let's talk about basketball.
Well, speaking of Call of Duty, did you see the trailer for Cold War?
I skipped it. It's just depressing. It's depressing right now, Jason. It doesn't. Let's not get into it. We have a lot to talk about with this anime. We
I'm
have
not
a lot
sure
of
about
stuff to not talk about with this anime too.
Yeah.
So let's go into our non-spoiler reviews, and there is a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of ecchi, there's a lot of sexual humor in this. We are not going to really get into those scenes, but we're definitely going to talk about how it affected our viewing of the anime. So this will be a PG review of the story, and I'm just going to kind of, hey, and then stuff happened, just so you know. But yeah, let's go to our non-spoiler review. Jeremy, you picked it, and not your fault. I totally know what you were going for, but what'd you think?
Sekirei. Right? Or Sekiro, or whatever it is. Right? Isn't that what it is?
No, it's Sekirei.
Sekirei. Okay, yeah. That's what I was going for. Yeah, not what I expected. Mostly because of age. If you take the age out of it, I don't think I would have had an issue with it. But yeah, not what I expected. I do have to say, there's an amazing concept here. I think it's a really cool idea, and I liked the conclusion of the season. So I can't say that everything was bad, or that even the things I didn't like threw too much shade on everything. But if you are considering watching it, just know that the ecchi gets underage, and that's pretty uncomfortable.
But it's also mixed with not underaged, which makes me uncomfortable. But...
even more uncomfortable.
Right. And there's also characters who are literally by design looking underage, but they're old. There's characters who are actually underage. There's characters who aren't, and they're just drawn that way. It's the whole gamut, but definitely somebody else's perverted fantasy and not ours is being tickled here.
It's a real brain twister. Yeah.
Jason, what'd you think?
Like if the best way I can describe it is just stealing defeat out of the jaws of victory. There is such a great. So I went after the anime. I went and read about one of the characters that only gets 2 episodes, and reading her backstory, reading her current, and then reading how she affects the story now. I was like, I want to see that anime. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to see this. So there is a really neat idea and a really cool concept wrapped up in this really gross package, and it was frustrating to watch because I wanted to like it, but and that's the thing is like I look at other anime ecchi or borderline. Like for instance, high school D&D, right? Or DxD. You have really like over the line ecchi, but they have a decent story going on, and and the two don't clash. Here, it's just it, yeah. So we'll obviously get into it, but I didn't really enjoy myself.
Past the ecchi stuff, which I hated, which is not really my bag anyway, but like it works for me in Konosuba. I've seen Sekirei. I enjoyed Sekirei very much. I had some other issues with the story. I think the concept is kind of cool, but I really think the main character's power set is really boring. I think the character designs are bland. I don't think they stand out from other anime. Like if you just saw their silhouette, I couldn't probably tell you what anime I was looking at. The story had some good beats, especially near the end. But another one thing we got to talk about is we watched season 2, and we all approved it. We all give it okay. So that's not Jeremy's fault at all. We decided as a group to try this. But it is definitely a personal pet peeve of mine to come into the middle of the story. And so I felt frustrated, and I don't know if characters are underdeveloped or if they were previously developed and I just was playing catch up. And that was frustrating as well. So I really didn't have a enjoyable experience on this. My daughter walked in the room once and then walked out and like she felt sorry for me. My wife felt sorry for me. I felt sorry for me. I would not recommend this to anyone. However, I'm going to say this. When we go through the episodes in the spoiler section, I'm going to say one positive thing about every episode because I did not want to just be, this sucked, kiss knifer, wah, wah, wah. I wanted to have a positive. Yeah, that's
stones.
It's going to be like that, is it?
But I am also drinking while we record this because that is what I've been brought to. Now let's go on to talking about the OP and the ending. What did you guys think?
I actually liked both of them. And also, like, the first person parts were actually pretty cool. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen anime done from a first person aspect. So there's 2 moments in the OP where it's like from the first person perspective. I thought that was really well drawn, or at least animated, I should say. But the music was good. I like the music too.
Nothing real stand out for me except for the first person scenes. I did like that too. We did actually see one, the Viking anime. Sometimes it would go into first person for him. It reminded me of that, and I was like, okay. That'd be so cool. I hope this is how they do it. But yeah, they never really did that in the actual anime though, which was sad. That would have been really cool. The outro, I guess the music just didn't really hit me that much for this one.
I mean, it's not something I'm going to put on a music list to listen to.
Right.
I thought it complemented
You just want to forget the anime.
Yeah, there we go.
I thought the OP had a fun, bright song, but again, it's not one I'm going to ever go try to listen to again. And I did like the first person camera points. That was my one good thing about the OP. And then as far as the outro, I liked the watercolor look that they used. I thought it looked nice. Otherwise, I didn't care. I skipped through most of the outro just trying to figure out if there was an ending scene because sometimes there was.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until like episode 8.
Yeah, you didn't. It usually involved a bath. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So just to double check, is your one good thing about each episode the intro and outro then?
No. I'm not cheating. All right. Let's go on to our spoiler section from here. We're going to talk about this again. We're not going to go into describing graphic stuff. Probably nothing worse than what we've already said. We'll just kind of go over that. Do know that if you watch this, that is in store for you. It is like literally one step away from being something you need to go onto the internet to find.
Yeah, and it's spelled out. Even things that don't happen are spelled out.
Right.
Like
let's keep it as that. But yeah, spoiler section. So, and there is plot. There is actually a plot here. So we're gonna spoil that. We're gonna talk about the characters. We're obviously gonna argue about characters' power sets. I could see Jeremy's face when I made a comment. that's
Heck
coming.
yeah.
Spoiler warning has been dropped. Let's start with episode 1. We meet our main character lying in a bed with 3 other female characters. This main character is Kazuya. He is a cursed boy who accidentally brings... where should we start with this? Should we start with the character, or should we start with how this world works? So who wants to explain what a Tsugumomo
The world
is?
works, I think.
I can actually go into it a little bit. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there's this stuff called
Malaise.
yeah,
Is that what you're
malaise,
thinking?
but then like out of the malaise comes these like demon things called agamosi,
Amasogi.
amasogis. And so, anyways, there's this profession of exorcist that takes care of these things when too much malice and comes into the world. His mom was a really good one, and she has a specific power set, and he was kind of born with a really strong version of that. But the problem is that he can create these at will. Most people can't create them at will, that they have to have some sort of emotional thing happen to them where they go out of control.
And him just being around makes it more likely to happen to other people too, right?
Right. But also he can literally grab an object and make it come to life with it and create these things. So
Now, we don't actually see that in the anime, though, do we? That's something from the extended
well, he
information.
did it
with
with
the
the
eraser.
eraser in the very beginning.
Oh, you're right, in the flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also part of his backstory, right? Because
Mhm.
he created some to help him train, which is
Well,
what got him in trouble.
Also,
But anyways,
also in this world, there's the actual Tsukomogami,
yes.
or they sometimes call them Tsugumomos, but they're basically an item that has had so much human emotion poured into it, it comes to life and becomes a person.
But not out of the Malison, though.
Right, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But they will lose power if they don't have a partner. So they usually have to have a human that uses them, or is at least, they can basically drain off of as a
Right,
battery.
A host.
Yeah, basically. But it's a mutual thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what his is an obi, which
Mhm.
is what it's just
It's a belt
roll
on
of
a
cloth.
kimono. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A fancy belt of a kimono.
So
Mhm.
yeah, and the two can fight together to,
To go Super
Like,
Saiyan.
yeah.
They can,
Yeah, when-
they can fusion dance and then...
Well, not just
Well,
that,
that's
but
even higher. Yeah.
with he wears her
right, she turns into...
normally without going Super Saiyan, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, when Troy says power set, he's kind of talking about how the Tsugumomo will help his fighting style.
And how the Tsugumomo, their powers kind of depends on what object they were.
Exactly.
A sword would do a lot of cutting. A flute does sound stuff, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
She's literally a belt.
Hey, it's really cool.
It's,
I think it's cool what he does with.
let's start
the
with
belt.
her then. Let's start with her.
Okay.
Kiriha. I wrote Kirihu in the notes, guys. Sorry, I had very bad handwriting.
It's all right.
I can literally tell I was not trying when I read my notes.
You're already
Kiriha,
most of the way through that bottle.
who was his mother's
Yes.
obi, his mother's sash, and is now a... Now, I got the impression in the first season she was in child form, and now in the second season has grown into a teenage form.
No. So they went to. Well, actually, they were children together, going through elementary school and middle school, and they grew up together. So that when they started becoming exorcists and fighting together, they were both adults.
What?
Yes. Kiriha
Yeah.
is just as old, if not older, than Kanaka.
The mother. So she was in the possession of the mother before this.
But
She was owned.
Kiriha went to school?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why she's in school at the beginning of this.
Most.
No, it sounded like she went to school for the very first time in this very first episode. I thought that they were
No.
like, "Hey, we need your help. Since we need your help with the school, enroll in the school." And she shows up, and they're like, "Hey, what the heck is this girl?" And they're like, "Hey,
No,
it's the
she's been to
hottie."
school multiple times.
Yeah.
No more season 2s. All right, let's talk about Kiriha first. She is the obi. She's a perverted young woman who clearly is in love with this boy and a powerful. But okay, yeah. Which doesn't make What did you guys think of Kiriha?
Aside from the ecchi part, I actually liked her as a character. I enjoyed her attitude, how she had a little bit of deviousness, a little bit of. She's actually described in the little notes about the show as being sadistic, and I don't know if I'd go that far, but she is pretty obnoxious, and she does pick on people that don't need to be picked on just whenever, just because the opportunity arises. And so I did find her to be pretty entertaining for those moments. I also thought that there was some interesting relationship dynamics. Again, I'm not even talking about the ecchi stuff. I'm talking about the relationship dynamics between her and Kazuya in regards to how they see each other. And this kind of is a harem anime. It basically is a harem anime.
Flat out is.
Yeah. So you have that situation where, he's got a harem, and how does he view this particular character? She's been with him the longest, seems like. And I liked what they did with it, and I really liked what they did with it at the very end of the season. So yeah, I found her to be pretty entertaining.
Jason?
I kind of agree with just about everything Jeremy said, which has not happened very often.
Takes an ecchi anime.
Right. No, yeah, besides the bad scenes, she was fun to watch. It was fun to watch her interact with other people, and I did like their non-ecchi relationship outside, because they obviously cared for each other a lot. They had a ton of trust in each other, and their fighting, like, I didn't think a cloth would be a cool fighting tool until you see what they do in the anime, and I think it works.
It's like he's fighting with a combination of a cloth and like origami techniques, and that's really pretty and very cool.
Well, so his mom came up with those techniques, by the way.
That would explain why some of them are like the flower technique. I don't get the sledgehammer. That's just crazy.
I'm going to talk about her, and then I'll talk about the powers. I guess I do like her relationship with him for the most part. I don't even mind that she's always making advances and like going too far with him. Clearly, they just have a weird relationship, and that I guess that's fine. It bothers me when she did it with other characters that she had no relationship with, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot. But
yeah,
I like that she was the confident one. Of the two, she's definitely more. I thought she was more likable just because she has, it was nice to see a female character who wanted to kick butt. It was cool. I guess. But for the power, guys, I'm here to. Their power is basically Green Lantern, and I gotta tell you, Green Lantern is like one of the most boring superhero characters ever because he has everything he needs for every situation, which isn't clever. It's not. Batman has a certain amount of tools. Whatever situation he gets in, he's got to use those exact tools to get out of it. Being able to form whatever you want for any situation, and artistically, she's just a white sheet. It could literally have been toilet paper, and I wouldn't have been able to tell. It wasn't fun to watch. I was like, wow. And I thought other of the item people that had powers were way more interesting to see. The mirror I thought was cool. The scissors and the sword is a little easy, I thought. But the fact that I'm a belt, so I can literally do everything and become anything was like, that's so... And it's just a white wrap. He could have been a mummy fighting with his bandages. It would have looked the same. He could have been fighting with toilet paper. It would have looked the same. I just wish they had done something to make it more artistic and fun to see, other than just white shapes. He's a white toilet paper Green Lantern.
Do you remember that anime where there's a girl that fights using paper?
Read or Die. You're talking about Miss Paper.
Yes.
And I absolutely love Miss Paper.
Okay. It looks the same.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it reminded me of that, and in my mind, I was getting the same vibes.
With Miss Paper, like you can see each individual paper in the design of whatever she would build. It took time to build everything. Like she built a giant airplane, it took her time to form it. Yeah, she could make the paper hard as steel, but it was still paper, so like fire would affect it. This thing literally gets burnt. It's fine. We learn, hey, if you're battling something that's like your anti, like, so a scissors versus a scissor sheath, which I've never even heard of, he gets stunned by it. But isn't any type of blade the anti-cloth? So shouldn't everything sharp really just stun her?
I think it'd be more
Well-
if you're wearing a kimono, she couldn't fight you.
Ooh.
if you just unbutton or open garments, she's, oh no. I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
They didn't really expound very much on what it would
No, they
take
didn't.
to neutralize something like an obi.
And
I
it's
don't know.
fine. I mean,
But-
I don't know what
But you've made a lot of interesting points, but they're mostly subjective.
they are.
Like I agree with you that the power is kind of used in a very freeform way, but it seems like these techniques are pretty well outlined for him, and he has to learn new techniques if he wants to do new things. So it's not so much like Green Lantern where he can just call up whatever he wants
Right.
at moment's
Probably
notice.
the one that bothered me the most is when they made drums to battle a sound thing. I'm like, well, you can't also be a sound thing just because you want to be. That's really the only time that I felt like, wow, I guess this is just Green Lantern making whatever you want. My biggest issue is that it's just a white blank sheet.
See, that's why I liked it though, because it wasn't about the color scheme or anything, being fancy. It was about the folding. Like looking at origami in combat is what it looked like to me. And you'd have moments where they would have it intricately enough where it, like when they did the soundproof wall, and you've got like all these different jagged folds of it. That looks really cool. And I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I love it when you have characters that actually reinforce their own body. I think that looks really cool when it's those strips of cloth. And they did that. That's a thing that I like. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Right, but it looks just like a wrap or bandages. There's nothing special about her being an obi. They could have said she was my mom's bandages and it had been exactly the same. I just want something. If you're gonna be a kimono belt, do something. I guess that's my biggest issue was why a belt? Why?
Okay, Jeremy likes it. You don't. Let's move
Yep.
on.
All right, Kazuya, the boy who wields the obi. What do you guys think of him?
Kind of
Boring.
bland,
Yeah.
boring.
He was there to inspire ecchi moments, basically.
He had such a cool potential backstory that they could have done so much more with. Like, there's that moment near the end where they're like, hey, or actually no, even early on they were like, hey, his memories are starting to come back, and like we're like, what? Why is his memories blocked? Like, what's going on? Like, there was like so much potential there, and it just ended up being a crappy stand-in character, just like every other cruddy harem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I
think he was okay at the end. Especially when he decides that he's gonna go train to, be better, but
develop a character.
Yeah.
There was one thing about him.
Develop the character.
Yeah. There was one thing about him that absolutely cracked me up, and I thought it was really a brave move for them to do for the character. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this in storytelling. I'm sure it's been done, but I haven't seen it. Where when he's asked, who do you love the most? Who are you most in love with? It winds up being himself as a female. I thought that was hysterical, which comes into play because of a dream where they were gender swapped, and he saw him. He got to experience what it was like to be a female, and that I was laughing so hard at that. But I mean, that's not really him as a character. That's just a writing beat, right?
Right. That was my only issue with it. Is like he's not actually a narcissist or anything.
Right.
It would have been better if he was otherwise, but it was a funny joke.
Yep.
I think he is very typical harem, bland as we can possibly make him, main character. And I already complained about the character designs. His literally makes me angry every time I saw him. Like, make him look like anything. He's just so bland looking. He has brown eyes when everyone else has like these brightly lit colored eyes, and he has these brown dull eyes. His hair doesn't even like fully, like, they didn't even like finish drawing his head or something. It looks weird. He makes me so mad.
His dad looked more interesting than him.
Yeah, his friends, who I didn't write their names down because they're not in this anime enough, got like super detailed facial expressions sometimes and stuff just for jokes, but he never does, and he's just like this bland Pac-Man looking guy.
If I had to justify it, I think the only thing I could come up with is maybe they're treating him as a canvas to try and make the harem stand out.
I would assume that would be the goal.
The only thing
I hate that. So again, personal opinion. All right. Another person in this bed is Kukuri, the local goddess of this region. Thoughts on Kukuri?
Again, another character that was vastly more interesting in the last 2 episodes. There's so much lore that makes this anime semi-compelling, and then they have to ruin it with just awful writing. She was okay. I mean, I guess she was decent as the plot point of the anime. It was just really weird. There were multiple instances that she's... Never mind. Let's not go there. Okay. Yep. I'm good. That's
We'll
it.
just skip the worst stuff that's super obvious.
Oh, look at this mirror.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I thought she was fine as far as the character goes, except there was one thing I have to criticize about, and I don't know, this could be intended. You know, maybe they intended her to be this dumb, but she's a dumb person. Like, oh my god, the decisions that she makes, especially in the last episode, she makes a pivotal decision, and her decision is based on, well, I got this outcome before, so I'm going to expect to get the same outcome, even though the situation is vastly different. And she's a god. She's been alive for so long. That's a lesson she should have learned. She's fought a lot. But, yeah, she's just... It seems like she has no real foresight as a god. And that's one of the things that bugged me, is she's got so much power, and she's been around for so long, and yet she's dumb as a brick.
Mostly couldn't stand her most of the time, but once the plot actually like made her matter, she was more interesting. As you know, we find out that the toll the job is taking on her, and then when she goes into her true form, I was like, no, there's a character I would have really liked to have met.
Right.
And she's no longer a loli. That's her true form.
Now her true form is a 30-year-old woman, and I'm thinking back to things she's done to a teenage boy, and I'm like, wait,
Yep.
Gross.
Yep.
I mean, it was gross because of a teenage boy in her old form. Now it's gross on the opposite end. You managed to ruin it twice.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, like, her appearance, the age of her appearance is tied to how much energy she's expending.
From what I understood, the same is true of Tsugumomos sometimes. Like, I read that was what happens with Kiriha.
Gross.
So maybe Kira in season 1 was a child. Maybe Troy was an idiot. All right. Also in this bed, who we're not going to take time to talk about, is Kokuyo, who is the priestess who serves Kukuri. Also, this anime deserves a straight up middle finger from me taking notes when every name begins with a K and almost are identical, and I'm like trying to write this all down. I got so mad. And then Kagami comes in, his sister, and I'm like, no more K's, and there's so many more K's coming up. Anyway, yeah, so they all live together at this time, and him and Kiriha go to school, and he has to tell all his friends who are part of the culture club the truth of what's going on, which is, hey, these evil spirits are granting wishes and causing problems, and me and Kiriha are hunting them down, and we would like you guys to use this club to help us track them down. And we meet his friends. He has Shiro, Osama, Chisato, and Nanako.
And they don't really matter.
And they don't really matter, except for Shiro, who's always making, like, he's being a pervert all the time, but since every other character is too, it's like just another added to the pile. There's not the pervert character. There's the not pervert character in this anime.
Well, and there's something weird about the way that they do this. Like, he is a pervert. Like, he is, by the anime, he is labeled a pervert because they use pervert animation to his faces, and they punish him for his perversions. There's another character later that they do that to as well. But there are so many other characters that are also perverts, but are not labeled perverts and are not punished for their perversions. And I just think it's really interesting how the anime delineates that decision.
I will have to say, I did chuckle every time he took a beating to the face and like blood's coming off.
The best one when she hits him in the chalk outline in the blood.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But I think the one thing that actually made this character fairly palatable is he was going after people his own age.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You drink. Oh, got me.
True. Yep.
All right, so they explain everything to this club, and then we see a young girl show up in Chisato's room and plant an issue. So basically, there's a set of villains hiding in the wings. They actually go to the school, and they're the ones with the problems. And they're basically Sailor Moon villains at this point, where they're like, "Hey, I turned a thing evil so that they'll have to deal with it, and that will help my agenda in the long run." It's never. I don't really know how they're able to do what they do. I guess through Azami's powers, that they're just kind of channeling her, because it's not really their power at all to do what they're doing. But they basically create one of these evil spirits out of a pair of old panties with a frog on them that she has.
This is episode 1. Oh my god.
This is episode 1. Oh. Yeah, so back at the school, the frog panties get loose. They're trying to track it down. They use a pair of boxers to trap it. It then turns into a giant evil frog that they fight.
I'm still loving it at this point. I'm finding this funny. Go on.
And then, they have to get her to admit that they're her panties. And he's like, dude, I'm your childhood friend. I've seen these panties on you. I know they're yours. Just say they're yours so I can defeat it. Because if someone else defeats the evil spirit that you've made a wish with, or that you're connected to, it will have repercussions back at you. So they need her to undo this so she doesn't have the repercussions. She finally admits it. They defeat it, and then they take off Kazuya's boxers and put it together so they can fly away to heaven. And brilliant. You know what? That was the moment of this anime that I liked. I was like, okay, I was getting what's that one where the panties become birds because of a wish? With the angels. It's like a pervert guy living with angels.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I forget what it's called, but yeah.
Oh. Is that the one where he's an anime artist?
No.
Nope. He's just a super pervert, etchy guy who ends up with an angel living with him, and he makes a wish that all the panties would come to life, and there's like a flock of panties for the rest of the anime flying around the town.
That's amazing.
And so
you've never seen that anime? I'm
no.
Love to send it to you.
That's a good etchy one that I like.
Yeah.
Well,
and also by the way, that protagonist, he totally embraces the pervertness in the entire anime. Awesome. It's pretty great.
Yeah, this frog underpants, this whole arc of everything that happened here. Or I shouldn't even say arc, but just this whole battle with the frog and the way it resolved. I was dying. Like the way the frog looks when it turns into its big monster form, it's literally wearing 2 pairs of underwear, one right side up, one upside down over its upper body. And like when they finally defeat it and it flies up, they follow that through. They don't even just like have it fly up into the sky and disappear. They then show like an astronaut on a space station looking out a window, seeing this pair of, these two underwear like flying away through space. And then you even hear news reports where they're like, it must have been an EMP burst or something because there was like this yellow light. I loved it. They committed completely. I thought, oh man, this is going to be really good. Yeah. Right.
All right, in the next episode, Kazuya is having dreams, and he tells Kukuri, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about that." And she's like, "Oh God, he's getting his memories that we sealed away back. That's not good." Because whenever him and Kiriha do the fusion dance where they form into one person,
Divine possession.
Yeah, he's getting some of her memories and getting his memories back through that. So she's like, "Hey, you guys shouldn't do that anymore." Meanwhile, Kiriha goes to visit a character from season 1. We have no context of what's happening here. But yeah, her name is Sunao, and she is also from the next province over, is also a exorcist who teams up with a sword. Her brother used to be the exorcist, and I guess they had battled before. And so she invited Kiriha over to apologize, and they talk a little bit. After Kiriha leaves, then Kazuya also comes over and is welcomed into the house. And Sunao apologizes to him, and then we'll get into the escapades they got. But what did you think of this second exorcist, guys?
I liked her. I liked her story arc. I think she was a vastly better protagonist. But she didn't have a lot of screen time except for this episode, and I think she gets one other episode. I wish she was in the anime more, honestly, because it made things interesting. But of course, this episode kind of ruined that a bit. But I guess we'll get into it a little bit.
Yeah, this episode went places I never thought I'd see an anime go. And I didn't want an anime to go there. But as a character, I thought that there must have been something really important in season 1. I think she was probably, maybe the main villain of season 1 or something, because she's clearly at the conclusion of an arc when we're first introduced to her. It's coming down. She hasn't quite finished it, but she does so within the next few episodes. And it didn't have the impact that I could tell it was going for. And I'm sure the only reason was because we didn't see the first season. I bet you if we saw the first season, it probably would have had a lot more impact. But because of the relationship that essentially her mother's trying to force on her, but she also wants. So here's the situation. She actually does like Kazuya, and because he beat her in season 1, her mother says, if you're beaten, the only way you can continue to teach in this school and inherit the school is if the person who beat you is part of the family. So she has to marry him. And of course, this leads to very uncomfortable motherly shenanigans.
But these two are 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. And so because of this, there's a sort of awkwardness whenever she's around him, because she knows that she has to have this relationship with him. She has to marry him if she wants to inherit the school, but she kind of also wants to. She doesn't want to be friend zoned, but he kind of wants to friend zone her. So it's an interesting dynamic between the two of them. The only thing that to me made it uncomfortable was the mother's antics, shall I say.
Okay, my thoughts, harem characters, very harem-y. They give her some special moments in the episodes she has. She does seem like she's coming off a very Vegeta-like arc, right? She was I was a villain, and now I'm becoming a good guy. Obviously, it has some issues due to a dead brother. It's hard to know how to feel about her when she's coming from another season we missed, but she's drawn cuter than most of the girls. She's drawn older than most of the girls.
Uh-huh.
So much older. even though she's not.
Yeah, she's not. All right. Like Jeremy said, to fake out the mother, he's going to spend the night, and the mom puts him into some precarious situations. Meanwhile, the dad is trying to sabotage and attack Kazuya with 1,000 years of death, which I think is a Naruto reference, because that isn't that the move they do when they poke you in the butt. Kakashi does to Naruto.
So, oh my God, the father. I think the father stole the scene to me in a lot of this, but especially just the way the mother treated the father with all the things he was trying to do, because he's clearly 100% against what the mother's trying to do. She's trying to get them together, and he says, "That's my little girl. You don't touch her." But he's not strong as the mother. And it's really funny because he's drawn like he's the intimidating, super powerful, scary warrior gonna beat the crap out of you kind of guy. But we really get this impression right away at the beginning, because when Kazuya shows up at the mansion, he senses this presence that's really dangerous and it's gonna kill him, but he can't see anything. Well, it's the father. He's standing inside at the front door, holding his bokken, and he's getting ready to beat him when he comes in the door. And you can just see the hatred radiating off of him. And the mother sees him, and he just gets the blue lines around him, gets so freaked out. And then when Kazuya comes in, there's like these blood trails going off into another room. I thought that was great. I absolutely loved that. And he doesn't give up. And in the end, he winds up being the one that kind of messes everything up for the mother's plans, but at the same time, kind of ends this whole situation for us so we can move on to other scenes.
Yep.
So
the one thing I liked about this episode, there's a scene where they're pretending to do things to trick the mother, and Kazuya yells out in English. And I didn't even realize at first he did. And she's like, "Why did you use English?" He's like, "I don't know what to do." And I honestly chuckled at that. And then a lot more creepy stuff happened, and it ruined the taste. But that joke of he's exclaiming out in English for no reason at all was very funny to me.
Yeah.
All right. At the end, the mom figures out, hey, you're all both lying. She takes him into her torture dungeon, and then eventually lets him go home. And they're like, hey, let's train together. And also, I do have to pretend I'm going to marry you at some point. All right. The next episode, we get a story about a young girl who's running track with her friend, and she's been improving lately a lot. And then that pervert friend Shiro, he has sent a love letter in the locker to the girl, the taller girl, the girl who didn't win the race. He thinks she's banging hot, and he goes to meet her on the school roof, and he gave it to the letter to the wrong locker. It's the short best friend who did win the race, and he's like, oh gosh, what do I do? And she's all very self-conscious, and it's like, no one's ever given me a letter before. And he's like, well, you are cute. Meaning, like, you are cute, but I don't mean anything. I didn't mean this. Sorry. But all she hears is, you are cute. She's like, oh my God, he really does like me. And so she assumes they're going out from this point.
Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong. Did he say she was cuter than the other one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is very important to her, because that's something she's better at than the other girl. Her friend is Mana, and her name is Mizushima? Something like that. Anyway. We'll call him Shorty and Tolly.
Yeah, that works.
So he pretends to go out with her. The tall girl is upset. Rumors are going around the school, and she gets very protective of her. And Shorty's like, "No, you're just jealous." And they go to her and Shiro go to the school roof, and he's like, you shouldn't judge yourself by your friend. Also, she's right. I didn't want to date you. That this was an accident. Also, have you noticed anything weird magic happening lately? And her bag starts rattling, and she grabs it and runs off and is all upset. So he goes and tells the rest of the group, hey, I think I know where the next evil spirit is coming from. And they assume she's going to go murder her tall friend because of the evil spirit. And she is at her house when they find her that night. And she's like, no, I'm not going to murder anyone. What are you talking about? And then the tall girl comes out and Shorty's like, hey, remember those shoes you lent me? Well, it turns out they were actually making me worse at stuff, and I've improved since I got rid of them because they got damaged, and I had to buy a different pair of shoes, and I've improved ever since I've done that. So you can have your cursed shoes back. My good thing about this episode is I thought this was a good twist. You know, it really set me up that I thought the Shorty was the, you know, going to be the evil one, very predictable, and then to have him twist it like that, I thought that was a really good moment. And so they have to battle the tall girl who has super speed with the evil shoes on. And the short girl, her whole thing is, I'm in love with you, and I needed to be better than you, so you would chase after me, so you would fall in love with me. And the short girl kisses her to stop her from fighting, and she's like, okay, you're right, I'm being stupid. But then a white-haired boy who's watching from the distance does the Sailor Moon, snap my fingers, and evil object is now more evil, and she gets possessed again. And do they do divine possession here? Yeah, they do.
I think they do. Yeah,
they do. Yep, they do divine possession. They destroy one of the shoes, which, because shoes are a pair, that destroys both shoes. And her repercussion is that her legs no longer work. And then, so the next day, both girls come to the club to say thank you. The tall girl is now in a wheelchair, and the short girl is now super tall and busty because apparently the shoes were also stopping her from growing.
Yeah, her entire art changed. Her hair got more full and longer. Everything got more full.
And so Shiro asked her out, and she gets rejected, as he should. That's really scummy.
Yeah, we find out that he's asked nearly every girl out in this.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because it doesn't seem like any of them except for her have actually been willing to go on a date with him. So, like, at that point, I can't fault him for asking. You know, it's different if he asks, gets a date, and then turns him down. But yeah, it's funny.
I liked his speech. He's like, "Hey, I know what I'm about."
Yeah.
All right, next episode. Oh, it starts with everyone's being like the day starts just like the first episode, but everyone's gender swapped now. And then they realize they're in the dream, and then we jump back to get what's happening, which is basically there's students who are falling into eternal sleeps, and so they know there's a spirit affecting it. They invest. Kakuri joins the club as an advisor, and she helps them investigate. And it's none of their. They're like, it's usually a pillow. It's none of their pillows of the sleeping kids. So then they realize, wait, didn't the teacher already know they were going to be absent before they didn't show up? So they go confront the teacher, and she like passes out. Excuse me. She passes out so she can go to a dream world. And so they all get the help of a
pillow Tsugumomo.
Yep, a pillow Tsugumomo who can also send them to the dream world. And she sends half their spirit to the dream world, which is what gender bends them. There they confront the teacher. They have to fight their shadow selves. They realize that the evil teacher is actually the shadow version of the teacher, and the good version is helping them. And
it's also super young for some reason.
Yeah, Kazuya has to fight his shadow version, and his shadow version is like way more powerful, has more forms, and he's like, oh, well, if you know them, I can do them, and then he manages to beat him. And then
I would normally really hate this, but I actually kind of like it just because the way that his shadow justified it was saying that he had no inhibitions. Therefore, he could access powers that the other guy was inhibiting his own ability to access. And it kind of makes sense that if you see yourself doing something and you realize, oh man, I can do that backflip. Yeah, and he still doesn't manage like later. He doesn't really take that full strength back out with him into the real world, but he does get stronger because of it. So I thought that was kind of cool, actually. A reasonable way to progress his power.
He does, however, literally say, anytime I've needed to get stronger, I've just willed it to happen, so I'm just going to do that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore that right now. Just compliment this one moment.
Fair enough.
Give me this, Troy.
The young teacher so the real teacher, who's now in child form, attacks the shadow version. The shadow version becomes a giant spider. They manage to work together to pin it down, and so she can destroy it.
I
Is
did
it
like
because-
how she used those little note symbols to
That
give
was
herself
cool.
powers. That was cool.
So
Hmm?
did it become a spider because spiders make webs and catch prey in it and then like hold the prey? Is that the combination of like locking people in sleep?
I don't
I
think
couldn't
there's a
figure that out.
reason.
Like, why is it a spider? The other one was a panties frog, and then other ones wind up being linked to whatever it was that created them too.
And some
With
of
this one,
them
it's just a spider.
are monstrous forms that don't.
Maybe she's
Yeah.
afraid of spiders.
I don't
Should've
think
been
there's
Freddy
rules
Krueger.
on what form they take.
I guess that makes sense. Chaos.
And then to go back home, they have to go back to sleep in the dream world, and then they go back to school. We're not going to talk about the ending scene.
Okay.
I thought you had to kill yourself or do something to wake yourself up.
Oh, the
Oh, that's a different movie. Never mind.
Yeah. Yes.
in your top. Who's excited for Tenet, by the way? I'm excited for Tenet.
What's that?
Then his next movie, Christopher Nolan's next movie, is Tenet. If it ever comes out, ever.
Huh.
Robert Pattinson. Anyway.
I don't know these names you're saying.
I can't do this. I'm trying to think of something nice to say about this episode. You guys need to help me out.
The notes that she used as for powers.
Yeah, you
That was
liked
pretty
that.
cool.
I did like that. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And I like that they had like dream powers. It was like Freddy Krueger, I guess.
Except not.
Yes. I did think it was kind of funny that the perverted guy, because he was now a girl,
That's not.
he's like, okay, I'm gonna distract everyone, but he had to be rescued.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about what he does at the end of the anime.
No.
No, let's not talk about that. All right. Episode, or at the end of the next episode. Sunao needs help because her sword, her Tsugumomo Kotetsu, is no longer able to wake up, which is what happens if the Tsugumomo runs out of spirit energy. It just basically becomes an item again.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on a trip. I'll just say this: after this anime, I never want to see another bathing scene in an anime ever again.
Oh,
Dude.
yeah.
I'm so overdone. So overdone. They take a bath like every episode. I honestly thought I'm like in the finale there will be a battle, and then half the episode will be just them in the bath because that's where this is all going.
There's even a bath scene where he says, because he's completely debilitated and can't move, and he says,
Yeah, I take a bath every day.
yes. And I'm wondering if that's like their way to comment on their own inclusion of a bath scene in just about every episode.
Anyway, they stay at a hotel. Hijinks happen, but they have to go to a sacred stone to power up Kotetsu and get him to wake back up. So they hike to the cave. They put him on the thing, and she prays to it. But we've already been kind of told this is probably not going to work. She doesn't really understand her Tsugumomo. She's treated it badly because she blames it for the death of her brother, and they don't really have the connection that they need to have. So this is probably pointless. So she prays to it, and it turns into a bulb. But I don't mean like a light bulb. I mean like a plant bulb.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way to describe it. And he's inside of it, like floating, and she's calling out to it. Meanwhile, every evil spirit they've ever killed shows up, and so Kazuya, I can't even remember these guys' names. If I didn't have notes, I wouldn't know who they were called. Kazuya and Kiriha, they fight and defend him, and then the one that killed her brother shows up, and it eats Kotetsu. It eats the whole bulb whole. But then she starts crying for it, and Kotetsu talks with the spirit of her brother and is like, "Oh, I guess she liked me." And so he then awakes, and they do divine possession. They destroy the thing, and then we learn that after divine possession, you're done. You're stunned for like 24 hours or 12 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back to the hotel. They're tortured. in the bath.
Yeah.
And then when they get home, the goddess who they're like, thank you for paying for this, and the goddess is like, I didn't pay for nothing. And then they found out they made a deal with another minor deity who we'll talk about more later, who then kidnaps the goddess as her reward for paying for it.
Yeah.
Without the other
There's a lot of
god's
creepy
consent, which is really great.
Yeah.
Again, we actually have to talk about this character because she does play I was like, please don't play a major part, and then she does,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I had
Yeah.
to put her down. So we will talk about her later.
I like to think of her as like the lady that has a doll fetish and sees the little girl as a doll and thinks that the doll is cute.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, man.
Yeah, that's about.
I mean, they're both similar ages, apparently, because the god's super old.
Yeah.
Here's what I liked about this episode.
True.
It didn't become a beach episode, which this anime, I don't want to see it ruin a beach episode.
That was probably in season 1.
I was like, oh, here we go. They're going on a trip, beach episode for sure. Yep. But it was just double bath episode, so whatever.
So what you like about the anime is that it didn't ruin something that you can still enjoy in other anime.
Yeah.
Not anything that the anime did.
This episode was really not important to anything else, though. There's nothing really that happened in this episode that was important, other than the sword. We kind of get to meet him, and thankfully they don't do much with him because I don't want to see what they do to that little boy.
Oh God. Yes.
All right. In the next episode, the teacher tells the group that she was given the evil pillow that caused all the problems 2 episodes ago. And so then we jump over to the villains who have like they're hiding in a classroom, and they have a boss whose name is Izami, who they have to keep happy, and they need her help to get a shard. They keep saying, we need the shard. And then we get their backstory. So we meet 3 characters, and it's like hundreds of years ago. They're born as Tsugumomo to this lord of this house. And the first is a pair of scissors that came to life, and his name is Akito. He's the white-haired boy from earlier who's doing evil Sailor Moon stuff. What did you guys think of Akito? Jason, I think he was your favorite character.
Yeah, this character would have been a much better anime to follow. I really like this backstory because it talks about how these Sugimori are, they crave that connection with a human, not only just to stay alive, but also it seems to be something that they enjoy doing is serving and being a partner with a good human. And I think they got up to 14 partners that just abused them or neglected them. And so he had never experienced, a good connection with a human. And so he was just like, no thanks, no more. But his arc was really great to learn about. It added a needed flavor to this fairly bland and wrong anime. And also the existence of this town that he ends up going to is super interesting. And I like the way he reacts to situations and how he's got this like dual purpose of, hey, I'm trying to do this evil stuff, but I kind of like these people and I'm growing an attachment to them. I really liked that conflict. And again, that was an way better anime I would have liked to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, his backstory takes him places that we don't get to go with this character too. They had a third sister, right? So he's got one sister that's still alive, but there was a second sister. I guess you should say a second sister, a third sibling. So he's got a second sister that actually died in that past because of human misuse. And he presents a very interesting, like you said, conflicted character that grows through the anime. And I don't know. This is where the anime started to feel like it was a different genre. When we would start to follow him, and even just having him incorporated into the main character's plot lines. I don't know. Maybe it's because that's why they never have a second male in harem anime, because it shifts the genre, makes it better.
He's also my favorite character of the whole thing. This episode I was actually enjoying. He's conflicted. He has a moral, goal, but it's also got a side of gray to it. His backstory is very interesting, and so I remember thinking like, oh, I guess this is like a secondary protagonist, and for a little bit they do that, and then they kind of just like, never mind, let's just stop doing that. But I was into that while they were going, and even in the OP, we see his point of view a couple times from that first person thing. So I do think he is meant to be almost a secondary protagonist. They just kind of don't follow through with that all the way to the end.
Wait, you have dogs?
No, I have cats. Only cats.
Oh, I thought I had cats.
Very loud
Train
cats.
them to bark. That's amazing.
Very loud cats.
All right. He also we meet his two sisters who they're not really siblings, obviously. They're just born at the same time, so they kind of consider themselves family. That is kind of important to point out. And one of them is Haifume, who is
Dice.
She's a dice, which gives her special powers. And they talk about how she's the most important one of them because she can change the luck of their master and really help him. But then we find out that if you roll a 1, you turn into a demon and go crazy, and the monsters start appearing in the village. So, but the master's like, no, I gotta win. She's my lucky, winning dice. So Akito goes and tells the villagers, and he's like, hey, you guys should know this is happening. And so they go and murder the master and his sister. And then he murders all the villagers. And he leaves with his other sister, who is Arumi, who is the magic ball. And is I think, a really cool addition to the story, because it reminds me of that Twilight Zone where they sit there and listen to the radio that tells them what is going to happen, and they don't move until the radio tells them. And then eventually they're like, we have to stop doing this. This is stupid.
Yeah.
And I really liked. This is crazy because they call each other brother and sister, so it's a little weird. But honestly, the Rumi Akito relationship was the most interesting one, I thought, of all the characters, because she clearly has strong feelings for him, but is also fully aware that his feelings are towards their sister they lost. The dice, and that haunts him. That's literally his center of his character, that moment, and that she also understands that. I thought that was just this really cool way that they paired them. The little love triangle going on. It's weird that they also threw brother and sister into it when they had no reason to do that.
They had to get every taboo into this,
right? I'm like, you literally don't have to call them that for any reason, but you're the one who decided they need to call each other brother and sister, and then you introduced a romantic. Fine.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on her? She doesn't have a character arc or anything, but any thoughts on her?
I like that her power isn't super obvious, or at least it's not as descriptive as you would think a crystal ball might be. I did like the dice. The dice were it's a good concept for this kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
Ones are bad. Hey, you keep rolling ones, and then once you roll enough ones, I'll use it. That was pretty funny. But no, I loved how they could only gather so much information from her crystal ball. It wasn't a hugely descriptive fortune, which made her character a little more interesting.
Yeah, the limitations were really cool. I thought she was kind of unique as a very benign Tsugumomo. She's really non-combat, which I didn't see in any of the other circumstances. Even though all of the others, okay, I can't say all, but many of the others were also non-combat items like a rope, a fishing pole, you know, I'm
Pottery wheel.
surprised. A pottery wheel. I'm really surprised that she's been alive for centuries and never developed combat techniques. So I don't know. I'm a little bit curious there. It almost feels like her personality is so strongly. I wouldn't say pacifist because she's perfectly satisfied to stand next to him while he wreaks havoc and to aid him in it. So she's not a pacifist by any means. Is she just scared, timid? You'd have to get over it living for that many years and being in that many conflicts that I'm sure she's had to lift her hand against somebody. But I don't know. That was one thing that kind of confused me about her. It was interesting, but also confusing.
All right. They, like you said, after losing that master, they go across multiple masters, and eventually, years later, they are growing weak from lack of human connection, and all of a sudden they are teleported into this strange world, which has a name. It's like Myogi, something like that. But
Yes.
it's I call it the Lost Village because that was easier. And it's basically a sacred area for Tsugumomo who have become disconnected from humans where they can live in peace. And they're first attacked when they get there, but apparently it's just what that guy does. And they're introduced to all these other Tsugumomo who live there. They're led by an old perverted bull man.
That's the guy I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they also meet another character who will become important, whose name is Mimam. Mim. What's her name, guys?
Mimane?
She's a mirror.
Like
She's the mirror girl.
Yeah.
She
little
looks like
redhead.
a little redhead, wild hair. She looks like she's like a little berserker.
Does she have a mullet? She looks like she has a mullet.
No, it's long on top. Mullet is short
Is
on
it?
top, long in the back. Yeah.
It looked like it was relatively short in the front. Huh. Maybe it's just odd bangs.
Anyway,
Important,
thoughts-
Troy.
thoughts on this mirror?
I didn't like her. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on her because she was spunky for the sake of being spunky and kind of naive and dumb. Some of her scenes were kind of funny because they took advantage of the dumb, but actually, okay, so I will say that it was hilarious to watch her, like, her and the scissors, like, go on this, like, secret mission to infiltrate the group. She's like, oh yeah, I'm this. Like,
Yeah.
there's no regard for being able to deceive. Like, she's super honest. But besides that, I just didn't enjoy her character.
I hadn't thought of it until you just said that, but a mirror is honest, right? It never hides the truth.
Yeah, it reflects
So-
what is in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in a way her character's behavior makes sense. But yeah, she was also the character that I hated most in this anime. And the reason I hated her was entirely because of her role in the ecchi. If there wasn't that situation, if those situations didn't occur, I think I would have actually found her entertaining because she was annoying, but she was also kind of like a fresh silliness and free-spiritedness. But she blows like Mineta, isn't that his name? And
Yeah.
all the other little pervert boys from the animes, she blows them away. They're nothing. She is a monster. But she's hundreds of years old and she's still not gotten over that kind of behavior, which again confuses me because these things almost seem like they don't grow. Their personalities don't grow. Their power grows. They can rival gods, they say later. But their personalities seem to grow at the whim of the writer, and that confuses me.
So, I 100% agree with you about the ecchi stuff she does. She's the worst, and ruins many episodes.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, I actually did really like the character in the plot. I completely disagree with Jason that she's dumb. She gets more intel on the enemy than any other character because she's
I
like,
guess that's true.
I'm not gonna. Look. I'm just gonna tell them the truth, and then they're not gonna think I'm keeping a secret. But she's not revealing anything they can't know. She's like, oh, they can know I'm a mirror. Who cares? That she's a obi. And then, hey, I took a bath with the goddess, and I've power scanned her, and I know how strong she is now. It's disgusting, but in plot wise, she's getting revealing more information than any other character. And I found it very funny when he's like, "Play it cool, don't answer secrets." And she's like, "Kiss him, okay."
Yeah.
I found that joke worked multiple times for me. Every time he's like, "All right, don't use your powers." Powers. All right, well, I guess just show them you have powers. I guess. I liked it. So she worked for me, except for she's the most perverted character, and she goes way too far with characters I didn't want her to go too far with, which is the anime's fault, not the characters, I guess.
Yeah.
So in the village, they live peacefully. I really like that Akito gets training with Shikage, I think is her name, who's a spear. So he, because he points out, like, I'm not a weapon, but I can do combat because I have a blade, so I'm a little more suited for combat than the others. But then he gets all this extra combat training. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're going to be like a really strong fighter, and he is. But he can tell that there's a secret about this village, and they find out that what happened long time ago, there was Tsugumomo who got fed up with humans, and they went to the local god for help, and the local god didn't help. So this Tsugumomo gathered a bunch of others, and they fought the god for like days and days, and finally killed it. And gods have a shard inside them that is where their power comes from. They took the shard. He took the shard. He put it in his chest, and he became this lost village, or generated this lost village dimension for them to live in. And they show them the mummified his mummified remains. They're like, but the shard is not eternal, and we need to replace it soon, which is going to be an issue because
like a battery.
Right, some of the Sugimomo are starting to revert back to their forms. We can't live here forever. And they Akito and Arumi agree to help. And so what the villains are doing is they first had to wait for Arumi's magic ball to tell them it was time to act, and they waited and waited decades for it. And finally it told them, capture this black mass. They went and they captured the black mass, and it turned into a little girl named Azami, and she has the ability to send them back to the real world. And when they got back to the real world, there was a second Azami there, and they now are working with her to kill Kukuri, our goddess of the story, to get her shard. Again, I thought this was a really interesting thing because they're not like being evil. They're not like, we'll take over the world. They're like, we're just trying to survive, but we don't like humans. And so I enjoyed this episode. In the next episode, Akito is at the arcade with Mirror Girl, and they meet Kazuya, who's there with Kiriha, and they all get sucked into a video game, Evil Spirit.
Yeah.
It's a very silly half a story where they have, like, Kiriha loses instantly because she's like, I'll just do my biggest attack. They're like, no, it's a fighting game. You have to build up your meter. And then she's getting kicked, and like, no, it's a low kick. If you're not crouching, you can't block it. So okay, I guess I'll crouch. And but everyone else knows how to play the fighting game. Mimane, like we said, she reveals her powers in this game when she fights. So they're able to figure out that she is a Tsugumomo, and they think Akito is her human. And then Kazuya manages to beat the guy who's making the video game world, and he's like, "Hey, I guess all I really wanted was a good fight. Thank you. I'm out." And they're like, "Aren't you like?
Yeah. Aren't you too old for this?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some stuff happens afterwards. Like they ask her, "Are you a mirror?" "Yeah, I am. You figured it out." Azami is really upset with what's happened, but then like random shrapnel from the roof suddenly falls down and
Oh no, she sent her cloths, her obi, straight up into the ceiling in rage, and it
Oh,
knocked
'cause
chunks
she
of
was
the
mad.
ceiling down onto her.
Okay. You remember, sometimes when I'm writing notes, I miss
Yeah, that makes sense.
flashes of stuff. So yeah, Kazuya saves her from that and gives her like a handkerchief, and she's like fascinated with that. I assumed his mother and this were tied together.
Mm-hmm.
No. So, yeah. So when
No, you.
Azumi was created by Kazuya. It was the first. It was his first successful Tsumigami.
All right. What are you contrasting? What do you think I was gonna say?
Well, you said that it had to do with his mom, and it doesn't.
It absolutely does.
Well, not.
Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
assumed,
Well, later.
I assumed the character and the Azami character and the mother were somehow connected. I was worried Azami was a child shadow version of the mother who was falling in love with her son. Is what
Okay.
I was going to say, but you can apologize whenever you know. I'm just kidding.
I did misunderstand.
I was worried they were gonna get even creepier. Is what all
Yeah.
my point was.
Yeah, when she was sniffing that handkerchief that he gave her, I thought, is that his mom? I thought the same thing, and I was like, she's not going to join the harem, is she? She's not going to join the harem,
right?
Oh my god! I mean, you know, his sister's actually got a thing for him
sister is
too.
part of the harem,
Oh,
Gross.
which
yeah.
they don't spend a lot of time with in this anime. Like the sister, I think is in 3 episodes total,
Yeah.
and minutes at a time. But it does sound like it was a much bigger deal in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why she's like, instantly, flustered
Yes.
by him.
Yes. Which makes much more sense, and I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah. Because he made her.
He made her.
But she's also possessed.
The Ayak, whatever her name is, the actual Black
Yeah.
Obi.
Yeah,
I
the Black
thought
Obi. She became possessed by the Azagami, and lost her sense.
Wait, so Tsugumomo can be possessed?
Apparently,
I thought only humans could. That's fascinating. Okay.
Wait, but isn't Kanaka the one that's possessed?
they both were.
Yeah. I thought the mother
So
was possessed
he
by
created.
them.
So he was what he made Azumi, and he wanted to become as powerful as his mom, and so he created it as a Amagozi
Yep, evil
the
spirit.
demon thing to fight against, to train and get better, so he could then train with his mom. It kind of got out of control because he created it and he didn't kill it right away, and it gained in power, and then it took over Azumi.
So
And
who
then
was Azumi then? Did the mom have
She's
two
a black-
Obis?
She's a
no,
black
like I
Obi, so-
said, he created Azumi from a black Obi. He got a black Obi because he wanted the same power set as his mom, and poured his Malison into it to then it was his first time creating a successful Tsumigami instead of just creating the Azumigami.
So then, how did she get possessed?
So to get this thing to fight him, he gave it the command, kill Kazuya.
Oh,
And
and it's
so-
still operating on that command.
And so when it took over Azumi, she then all of a sudden, that was her one and only goal. And then that same Azagami then took over his mom. And that's why has a one and only goal of killing him as well.
So that's okay. So
Okay.
yeah, that's proof that Tsugumomo can be possessed by these monsters as
Yeah.
well. I did
All right.
not know that. That's interesting.
The next half of this episode is almost the Akito's like, I gotta quit getting involved with their like hijinks, and then the next scene is, oh, I'm trapped in another thing with them, and this time
Yep.
it's
That was pretty good.
a board game trivia game where you're paired off with your partner. So it's Kazuya and Kiriha and Akito and Arumi, and you have to roll dice and go through rooms answering questions that are
that you shouldn't know the answer to.
intimate. Yeah, intimate questions, and they do. And every time you lose, the woman loses an item of clothing because men apparently never get their clothing messed with in this anime.
Well, but here's the thing that's so funny is the creator of this board game is a girl.
Is a girl. Yep. So we see almost this whole story from Akito's point of view, right? He's trying to. He doesn't know any of this stuff about Arumi. She doesn't know anything about him. So they're losing terribly. And the prize is you get one question to the other team that they have to answer, and he doesn't want his cover blown, so he's like, we have to win. But they still somehow end up at the final space at the same time as Kiriha and Kazuya, who've only missed one question the whole time. And after hearing some of those questions, it was like, wow. But the final question is, who is the person they care about the most, or think about? Who's their ideal?
The most.
Yeah. Who is their ideal woman? Something like that. And Kiriha's like, well, it's Kazuya is obviously it's me. And they're like, wrong. So they go all the way back to the beginning, and she gets really mad at him. Yeah. And then Arumi answers, it's the dice girl. Or it doesn't say, she never actually says that word, but yeah, it looks at the dice that's on the ground, and she's like, I know the answer. And they win, so they win, and they come out and they tell Kazuya, like, oh yeah, well, when we won the game, she decided to kill the Asmogi, so everything's fine now. And they ask him, okay, well, do you want to join the club with us? And they're like, yeah, we really shouldn't. And they're like, well, we'll blackmail you if you don't. And so he agrees. So now he's officially part of the club that's stopping his evil plan.
Now, I never actually heard him ask a question that he won the right to ask.
Yeah, I don't think he did. Mm-mm.
Weird. There was an opportunity there.
And then the end scene after the credits is they go into Kazuya's dream to see what his ideal woman is, and everyone goes in because they all want it to be them, and it's just the female version of himself.
I laughed so hard at that. It's good.
It was funny, and also fits into the harem thing. Like, I refuse to choose.
Yeah,
I guess I'll just pick myself in female.
Choose me.
I choose myself. All right, next episode. More dreams about his mother. He's something, I can't read what I wrote. The Azumis, they decide to keep waiting. Oh, there's a new Azumogi outside, and they're like, okay, how about we have the new guy deal with it, with his mirror girl, so we can kind of see what they can do. And it's like this spiked stone ball that's just outside, and they're like, obviously there's someone inside it. So Mimane, the mirror girl, she's like, oh, here's what I can do. And she turns herself into Kiriha, and they do Obi attacks on it. And like, well, that didn't work. She's like, well, maybe the answer is boobs. And she makes herself be Kiriha nude. That doesn't work. And then
Kiriha's getting pissed.
Yeah, Kiriha's like, don't use, she was like, hey, I'm glad you can become me. That's awesome. And then she becomes naked. She's like, don't use me for that. What are you doing? And it's pointed out that even though Kiriha is very open with herself, she's still not like okay with being on display, only for Kazuya. Which is actually something I liked. It is. Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm not an exhibist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They try stripping Arumi. No, she becomes Arumi.
She runs naked away as Kiriha. She's still Kiriha.
Arumi.
She's completely naked, and she runs away.
And runs back as naked Arumi. Arumi they turns her back into her normal self, and then Arumi strips her, and that brings the pervert. Now remember, Mimane is one of the little girl drawn characters, so it's again.
They even call her out and say she looks like she's in elementary school, and I was like, oh god.
And this brings the guy out.
No.
So gross.
No.
After this, four new Tsugumomo enter the area, and they send the priestess out to greet them. And she comes back beaten and battered, and she was saved by Taguri, that minor deity. And they talk about the entire group talks about, hey, the lost village. Also, Mimane is spending the night. She became friends with Kikuri and decided to come over. And they're like, we don't know what she's doing. She's like, no, I'm gathering info. It's fine. But they ask her for help. Like, these four are going to attack. They're from the lost village. So they know about the lost village. They're coming for my shard. Can you help us? And so she calls Akito, and they're like, we really shouldn't help. We should maybe help the four that showed up. They're like, no, the goddess is still way too powerful. It's not time. So we need to stop these four. So Akito does go to help. And then those four arrive and the battle begins. Kazuya and Kiriha fight a flute girl. They're overpowered at first because she has long-range sound attacks. And Kazuya forces Kiriha to do the divine possession, which is the first time he uses her true name so that he can give her a command.
They're such vampires, I swear.
Yeah, apparently you have to, like, they can't refuse a command if you use the real name, and then she gets super offended that he used.
Right. Technically, they're still tools, and you can use them as tools, but he's always treated her like a person, so this definitely upsets her. But yeah, with that, he creates the sound barrier, he creates the drums, and then he goes to punch her in. He doesn't hit her, but the attack is so devastating, and she's so scared she pees herself.
Well, I mean, he shockwave punched her bladder. That's what happened.
She pees herself and then turns into a flute and lands in the pee, and no one ever washes the flute.
that was freaking me out the entire time.
He put it on his chest later, and I'm like, oh, gross. Oh no,
it must smell still.
And it's so weird too, knowing that flute peed. That's just really weird too. It's just.
Well, I mean, it showed that they eat, so I mean.
I know, but like. It was this. I had the same reaction when one of them would die, and then there'd be like a broken fan or a broken shield on the ground. I was like, "That's a dead bot. Real? That's so weird. It's such a weird thing to wrap my head around."
Bugs me because after everything we've seen in this anime, it feels like this was added for someone's kink rather than
heck yeah,
drama. You know,
some people like their flutes in a puddle of urine.
Okay. All right. Akito is fighting an axe, and this is where like the axe pulls out scissor sheaths, and like if it touches Akito, he gets stunned. But then Akito's like, "Oh yeah, well I got chopsticks," and he hits the axe with it. And that's because it's from ironwood trees that break axes.
This is so dumb. I'm sorry, but that's two different reasons why it's working. Which reason is it? Is it just anything that sounds like it could because this particular language calls it something like that, or it has some, people have used this term and it's just a commonly spoken thing that's just passed down through the ages, or does it actually have to be an object that? And
Jeremy,
why?
I could make it worse. So if the axe can't chop through ironwood, and his scissors are made of actual iron, why should he be able to hurt him at all?
Exactly.
And like I pointed out, the Obi has fought fire and swords and has never had a problem, even though those both seem like the anti-cloth.
Right. Yeah. That's why, like, okay, if they had left it at being the scissor case, I could kind of get behind that, because the scissor case, there's sort of a it's sensible, right? Like, you put your scissors in the case when you're done with them. So if you force the scissors to touch the case, then you're like triggering an instinct that they need to close up for the night, right?
Right.
I can twist that enough that it can make sense. But if you just arbitrarily pick something that sounds like it would work, then now, yes, you're back to the situation with the Obi where fire and swords and things like that, those would all work. Those should just give her those electric sizzles and knock her tased to the ground. But if it was the other way where it was only like pouches and stuff, then I guess I don't know what a box that you store the OB in. I don't know if they do that. Is it
Like a garment box.
Yeah, a garment
from the
box
store.
or something. Yeah, there you go. That's the ultimate weakness.
Dry cleaner bag.
Or but like that piece of plastic that they put on the head of axes and hatchets at Home Depot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a blade protector.
The other battle is between Toguri and two of these Tsugumomo. Toguri is the minor deity that has a huge crush on Kakuri, the goddess. She seems to be a deity of money, though.
Adamantine. I don't know if it's specifically money or adamantine.
I thought she had coins, like she had coins for armor too, though, and she seemed to always be holding coin.
Yeah.
But what'd you guys? Again, I didn't want to talk about this character, but she ends up being.
I thought we already did.
Not really.
Just mentioned her.
Oh.
Just mentioned her. This is like This is like her first time being important to the story, though, because she's like, "Hey, you guys need help." But
I'll give you my arm.
You said Mamane was the worst character. I thought this was the way worst character.
Her power set was weird because not only could she use coins, and then she's got this giant, like, column of adamantite, and then it becomes a beam cannon, and I'm like, okay, where does this stop?
It's kind of like how when she was facing off against the shield guy, right? And he's like, "Oh, heavenly shield, make your shield go away." Like, how does that work? It's the same concept with the beam cannon. Powerful adamantine, break powerful shield now. Like, mine's better than yours, so I can make a beam to armor pierce yours. I don't know. That was weird. I agree. I don't know. Mimane to me is, I think she's the worst character because she actually physically gets involved with these other characters in weird ways. This one, I can totally see what you're saying because she stands back and takes pictures and giggles and everything, and that's just so creepy.
She literally tells another character, "If you were a little girl, you would have a chance."
Yes, that's what she says.
I threw up in my mouth. I was like, "Whoa, that is so wrong." Like, at least Mamane is also a little girl, and so you could play it off as like she's a child who doesn't realize that she's making other characters pee.
She's hundreds of years old.
But
you're right.
Yeah, I know she is. There's very much of like what I'm seeing versus what is actual, right? But Toguri, Toguri is a full-grown woman who literally says the words, "If you were a little girl, you would have a chance." And I'm like, they put that line in here.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that line. Yeah,
I watched it. That line happened today, so it's very fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you're drinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should get a refill. Then they realize, these four are actually just a distraction for the actual assassins that came from the village, and Kakuri, who went out to a middle of a field, meets these assassins, and she destroys them. She just kills every single one of them. There's a guy with a fishing pole who pulls like a sea monster out of the sky, and she just blasts it and him at the same time with like a spiral attack. She's a good fighter.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's a god, so.
Well, I mean, this was one of the things that was really bugging me is when they story about how many Tsugumomo it took to actually take out the other goddess. They said they lost over 100 of their people. So I was absolutely confused when, like, 5 showed up to take her out.
But
what do you intend to accomplish?
They're also weakening her, so she's not going to be as strong as the other one was.
Well, that's the thing. That's another thing that was that's another thing that was confusing me, though, is like, okay, so if you're weakening her, is that weakening the shard? Like, how does it weaken her? Because her powers are directly correlated to the shard. Oh. So are you draining the shard?
No. I see the problem here. You actually were like thinking about this anime.
Yes, it was.
It's a common mistake.
That's true. If it says etchy, stop thinking now.
I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, so they go back home. Kazuya is incapacitated, and Kiriha is upset with him. And they're like, okay, we're gonna everyone else, all these people we should have interrogated are dead now. So we're gonna, but we have the flute, who's no longer a Tsugumomo. So, all right, yeah. So they lay the PP flute on his chest and make it a temporary partner.
Gross.
And then Akito and Mamane head home, and then they learn that back at the village there's been a revolt. So in the next episode, they go back to the village. But that happens in a second. Back at Kazuya's house, they're like, "Hey, no two gods can be in the same area. It causes chaos." But the God organization, the God Club, they realize there's a problem, so they're sending help. So they send Tsunao and her sword from to come help.
Mm-hmm.
So she moves in to the house. And then we come back to Akito's group. They go to the village. There's a bunch of Tsugumom who started eating human souls to power themselves because they're freaking out about dying soon. There's only about a month or two left on the village. So they have to kill them, and they fight a pottery wheel. Makes clay versions of himself to fight. So they kill him. Yeah, and so they find out there's a month left. Meanwhile, Tsunao helps Kazuya apologize to Kiriha, and they start training. And then the mummy, his name is Murhai, but the mummy who made the Lost Village, they wake him up. He's not dead. He was just like being really, really still and really, really a mummy. But he's fine. He comes out. He's like, "Hey guys, we're gonna go attack. I was a mummy yesterday, but I feel good. You're gonna need my help to kill this goddess." So they decide to go to war, and so we come to it, the battle of our time.
I did like how he comes out and he's like, "Yeah, I can control it now," meaning that it's lost too much power. Like if I can control it, that's a problem, and that's the whole reason he was a mummy is because he couldn't control it and it would do bad
Don't
things.
try to. It's
That was one positive thing I thought was neat about the whole explanation.
The old bull didn't know that. The old bull was like, "I decided to wake him up."
Old Bull is also a creepy dude.
Who also
he cracked me up
in this
though.
episode.
Yes.
I did like when they
He's
tied him
himself,
up.
too.
He's like, "But I really do have to go to the bathroom," and then it just shows the river, and I'm like, that's better than the joke you just did a second ago, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they turned the village into a flying boat. Or there's a flying boat with a portal to the village. So they're like, we still have access to the village that's keeping us alive, but we can never go back. This is a do or die mission. We're a flying boat, and we have a cloaking device from the Klingons.
Yes.
But unfortunately, they turn it on right in front of a shrine priest who knows the phone number to Kazuya's house. So he calls Kazuya's house, and he warns the goddess, "Hey, there's a flying ship with a cloaking device here." and yep, this actually happened. And so Kakuri's like, "All right, it's time to go fight." So they all go to the shrine to get ready for the battle. The flying boat gets caught in a fire net by the neighbor god where Tsunao is from, who we haven't met, but she is in the OP, and so I'm assuming she's a character from season 1.
Yeah.
And it's just she's not actually there. It's a projection of her that's there to help. And she's like, "Yo, I'm a fire god. I'm fighting your boat." And she ends up destroying the boat, and then it turns out it was a decoy boat made by Namane's mirror powers, and we leave that story behind.
Yeah.
Mummy dude decides to fight Kukuri one-on-one. He's like, we all have to take her on, but I'm gonna do this alone.
Yeah. Because if I do this alone, then maybe she'll fight me
She'll
alone,
alone.
and you guys won't die.
They send Akito and Arumi to the hide in the bushes to warn them if anything is coming in the future.
Felt
And
betrayed later.
they battle. He starts to win, so Kukuri has to release the barrier around the village, or around the whole province that she has, and it turns her to her actual form, which is a 30-year-old woman or something like that, fully grown woman who has done horrible things with a young teenage boy. And but like I said, she said, like, I'm interested in this character now, and they have this really cool battle. She defeats him, and she's like, look, you got to stop this. Kazuya's like, look, we'll find you humans that are good. It'll take some time. Admittedly, humans suck, but we'll help you. And he's like, you're so naive. And then he gets stabbed in the back, and Azami, the two Azamis are both there, because now that the barrier is down, they can come in. And they kill him, and they take the shard, and they use it to revive Kazuya's mother, Kanaka. And he's like, wait, that's my mom. Why don't I remember her? Like, okay, dude, we know we've erased your memories, but this is all your fault. That's not your mom. That's your mom possessed. And if you don't kill her, the entire town will be destroyed if anyone else kills her. Because, again, the rules are if someone else kills it, then you have to suffer a repercussion. But the repercussion of this would be so bad, it would destroy the entire town.
Be worse now.
Yeah. So Kanaka defeats all the Tsugumomo villagers instantly, and
literally.
Yeah. I actually I wrote down without moving, and then it shows that she did move, but it was just so fast that no one saw it. And Akito is like, wait, we have future foresight. How are we not seeing this coming? How is she getting past our ability to see the future? And he like, what if I go out there and help? And he's like, die, 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 die. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, that was awesome. I really liked that.
Sunao fights her using divine possession, and she's able to stand up to her for a little bit, but then the divine possession wears off. There's actually 3 gods here right now. There's Kukuri, there's Toguri, and then there's a guy named Old Bell, who's like this old guy. They're like, hey, this random new character is going to help.
Weather god.
Yeah, tiny weather god. And so they attack together, and they're able to knock her down, but Kazuya isn't ready to kill his mom, so he doesn't do anything. She gets back up, and she actually she takes an arm off Toguri and impales Old Bell. She fights one-on-one against Kukuri. They're both going all out, and then Kukuri's like, I know I'm more strong. I'm more powerful than you. I know I can beat you. I beat you last time. She's like, yeah, but I've been watching my son this whole time, and guess what I've learned how to do? She does divine possession and kills Kukuri by stabbing her with her arm through her chest.
And taking her shard.
Yeah. Did she take her shard? I didn't know that.
It was in her hand, yep.
Yeah, she took her shard.
Shard.
So she now has 2 shards, even though one of them's almost drained.
Kazuya and Kiriha go to use divine possession to fight her, instantly lose. And then Kiriha jumps out to defend Kazuya because we were told, he's like, why do we have to kill them? Why can't we help them? And they're like, Azami's entire thing is killing you, and because they're controlling Kanaka, that's all they care about. You won't be able to do this. So Kiriha sacrifices herself, gets stabbed, and it turns into a torn up Obi.
Effectively dies.
And then Kazuya's sister, who hasn't been around since like the 3rd episode, the dream episode, I think is the last time we saw her, runs in and calls her an old B word, and then tells Kazuya, I can give you 3 years to get strong enough to beat her. And basically, she also has a Tsugumomo who is a hourglass, and they trap Kanaka and Azami in a
stasis field.
Basis field, thank you. That's going to last for 3 years. Kazuya wakes up and
It's
the
like, what a
head,
crazy dream.
yeah,
Yeah.
the head, his father's like, and I'm like, oh, your dad knows about all this? Usually this stuff is like hidden, but the dad's like, yeah, I'm totally down with everything that's happening. And the head of the training exorcist program is here, and she's like, we know what's happened. The Kakuri's dead. Kiriha's dead. We're going to take you to train for the next 3 years so that you can come back and defeat her, because you have to be the one who does it, or it's just going to blow up the entire town. And he's very sad about everyone who died, but then he does agree to go, and so they leave for 3 years, and that's how it ends. I sent you guys the message after watching this. Like, I feel like I watched the ending of a different anime here.
Dude,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Totally agree. It's like it shifted genres, turned into an action anime with a bit of tragedy, almost like a seinen, where it was for older audiences that wanted to have a bit more drama.
Yeah, not only was it dramatic, but it almost like the whole thing about the village was just thrown out of the window. Like, when we're not dealing with that no more. We don't find out what happens to Akito and Arumi from hiding in that bush. They're just gone now. There's like these other. If the first half of this anime is like, we're gonna fight the evil spirit of the week, and it'll get harder and harder, and then this is like, no, this world has serious repercussions, and forget about the evil spirit of the week. That's not a thing. That doesn't matter. The Lost Village, it doesn't matter. Everything we told you have mattered for the past 11 episodes don't matter. It's about this mom. The mom's all that matters.
Which
See,
actually, and that's the thing. That's what I was saying. If you read the mom's backstory, that's why she matters, and that's why it's such a much better anime. I wish they'd written about, because, you know, as an exorcist, she got bored fighting these spirits because she got so powerful. But that was her drive, is to constantly find better and better opponents. This is the Vegeta of the story that just stayed evil, because
It's like an evil Goku. You're right. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing, is that she wanted to continually find the next more stronger opponent, and she even asked the god Karuki multiple times, hey, fight me, because I need a stronger opponent. She's like, I literally cannot fight you unless it's to the death and you're actually gonna try and hurt us. And so they never did. And so that's why she's so dangerous in this form, because, you know, as they say at the end of this episode, they have to have Kazuya get stronger because they have a god killer on their hands.
Mm-hmm. And if she could destroy a city if someone else killed her right now, right? Like, if that's the atonement, what happens now that she's killed a god? What will she destroy if someone else kills her? It's gonna be bigger than a region.
I gotta say, I really like the use of the atonement as why the main character has to fight the main villain. It's not, you're a chosen one or you're extra special, even though he is, but it's a very much logic rule set that locks him in as the only one, the one that has to train and get stronger.
But also, it's his mess.
Right.
Like, this is all his mess. Like, his mom would never have been possessed if it wasn't for him.
I just like the tightness of that logic and how it weaves together. Very much usually in anime, it's like, oh, you're the chosen one because you are.
Now that I think about it, another one of my favorite moments in this entire anime is that the entire Lost City arc was a red herring to get the shard for Kanaka. Like, that, like, I didn't see that coming at all. Yeah, of course, I didn't know anything about Kanaka until that episode, but that's because we didn't watch first season.
My only issue is I did like,
actually, because they from what I understand, they didn't really cover Kanaka in the first season.
Oh, okay.
You were saying, Troy?
I was just saying I really liked the Lost Village storyline, so it being the red herring is a little bit disappointing. Like, while I mean it as a compliment that this was a different anime's ending, it is a little bit backhanded, because, I mean, what I was told to care about suddenly didn't matter, and that is a little bit of a harsh shift, especially right at the very end, right to end the season.
That's true. In a way, it kind of reminds me about that sort of twist formula that something like Madoka Magica would do, where you subvert but in a way that is palatable, and to one degree or another at least. And yeah, I kind of liked the switch being away from them, because in the end they did wind up getting a form of resolution. It just wasn't the resolution they were after. Like the god that was projecting from another region winds up rescuing them and saying, hey, you either give up and you come with me, or you're all just going to start dying because nobody's here to support you. And that was really interesting because they gave up. So they're going to be in a completely new situation, right? They've got no place to retreat to now. The god is literally sustaining them. And so yeah, it was an interesting resolution. But I really liked what they did with her. I was okay with the exchange. I loved the fact that they actually sacrificed the goddess and Kiriha. I'm sure that Kiriha is coming back. There's no way they're going to leave her dead. She's too important, especially because they had this scene development where you mentioned it, where Sunao told him that that Kiriha probably is worried she's going to be used as a tool and not seen as a person. And so he actually goes in and tells her that he doesn't want to ever have any other Tsugumomo. And that just makes her day, just big time. And then she dies. Like, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. You made me care about her a little bit more because she was, I love the fact that she's such a brat and a little bit sadistic, but she was really sweet and endearing in that moment. And that's when they killed her. It was good.
So the only thing is, in the there's a flashback where she remembers promising Kanaka that she'll protect Kazuya as Kazuya is a baby, and then you think about all those times they've been in the bath together, and
right? And let me clean down here.
Just one more knife stab from the ecchi side of this anime before we go.
That's true. Yep.
All right. Any last thoughts before we go to final review?
Okay. That Obi power was really cool to look at. I thought it was really well done.
Hey man, I could throw some toilet paper around the room if it'll get you going.
We should do that every few episodes.
All right. Final reviews. Jeremy, what'd you think?
So I'm really having a hard time figuring out exactly what number I think goes on this anime, because there's moments where I think that it has really good potential, right? Like the resolution of that last couple episodes, I would want to give those a 4. Like, in regards to where it went with the story and the things that happened. That was really cool. But so much of this anime was a 1 for me that I have a really hard time going higher than a 2. And I want to also justify that with the point that I've argued in the past against people who say that anime is just, girls that are drawn really, really young. I've argued against that in real life with people in arguments. And this anime actually does it. And you can look up the numbers. You can look up the age of these characters. And so this is an anime that makes me sad because they crossed the line. They went a little bit too far, I think. Maybe more than a little bit. Maybe a lot too far. And I'm really disappointed in that. This was not the ecchi I was hoping it would be. But yeah, I got to give it 2.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
I'm very much in Jeremy's boat, but the age difference in the etchiness is just a little too much for me. So I'm actually going to give it a 1, just because I feel slighted about how they had a decent concept and they just went, no, we want to go with this other thing that's really inappropriate. So yeah, I didn't find myself enjoying this anime.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, I'm trying to find positive things about it, and there were some positive things about it. This is not like a horrible anime. I just find it mostly very general, and then really, I actually found it, I don't like to use this word, but offensive. And I don't mean that as in I'm telling them to never make it again, but I'm choosing not to partake anymore. I wouldn't have got past 5 minutes if I was watching this by myself. It's a 1 for me. Solid 1. And also, never season 2. Never start a season 2. I don't know why it grinds me so bad. I have this weird thing of like, no, we have to do this in the right order.
I'm actually in your boat, Troy.
Yeah,
I can't start in the middle of a story. It grinds my gears.
I usually can't, but I was reading like that the reviews for season 2 were way higher. People actually liked season 2 and were giving it pretty good scores. And from what I understood, season 1 just didn't have a lot of substance. I didn't read the particulars of what was covered, but it just seemed like there was more plot in season 2. And I don't know, maybe that was just people that were going over the second half of the anime.
Like I said, we all agreed to it, and you know, it was. I thought it was worth experimenting and just seeing how it is. But yeah, as we were going, it just it didn't.
Lesson learned.
Yep.
Our next anime, we said back when we picked the Forest Spirit one, that there was a toilet-bound anime. We wouldn't want to pick that. And then we heard a response that was like, guys, it's actually better than you think. And my daughter has been pestering me for weeks. When's it your turn to pick? You need to pick Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. And honestly, what really sold me on it is I got to watch the OP, and I was like, all right, I'm interested in what this is. So that's our anime, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. And we will hopefully, it's not, like I literally told my daughter, like, it cannot be bad. I cannot take another bad one right now.
I know. 2 in a row, no. Well, the art is beautiful in the
yeah, it's got a very unique art style. She swears that it's good, so we'll see. And hopefully it is. Hopefully it's not
hard to beat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that is our next anime. If you have thoughts on Tsugu Tsugumomo, you can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can reach us on our email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast, and it'll get back to us. But I would recommend not watching it.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye now.